Hello, I'm Rachel Price and welcome to my podcast, Not Just Making the Tea, a show where I talk about the realities of our career and life choices whilst made at school and college. It's about celebrating the parts that don't go to plan as much as those which do. With every chat, we explore what life skills there are to be learnt and how they can influence and help us to succeed. This season, the focus is on key skills and the attributes which we all need to be more successful in our everyday lives. I hope that you enjoy these episodes, find them thought-provoking, entertaining, and that they add some positive vibes to your day. So on that note, let's get started with today's topic. What is critical thinking? It is the ability to think clearly and rationally, understanding the logical connections between ideas. Critical thinking has been the subject of much debate and thought since the time of the early Greek philosophers, Plato and Socrates, and it has continued to be the subject of discussion well into the modern age. Critical thinking might be described as the ability to engage in reflective and independent thinking. In essence, it requires you to use your ability to reason. It's about being an active learner rather than passive recipient of information. Critical thinkers rigorously question ideas and assumptions rather than just accepting them at face value. They will always seek to determine whether the ideas, arguments and findings represent the entire picture and are open to finding out if they do or don't. A good example of this is the ability to recognise fake news. Critical thinkers will identify, analyse and solve problems systematically rather than by intuition or instinct. Someone with critical thinking skills is said to be able to understand the links between ideas, determine the importance and relevance of arguments and ideas, recognise, build and appraise arguments, identify inconsistencies and errors in reasoning, approach problems in a consistent and systematic way, and reflect on the justification of their own assumptions, beliefs, and values. Critical thinking is thinking about things in a certain way so as to arrive at the best possible solution in the circumstances that the thinker is aware of. In everyday language, it is a way of thinking about whatever is presently occupying your mind so that you come to the best possible conclusion. In essence, critical thinking is a way of thinking about particular things in a particular time. It is not the accumulation of facts and knowledge, or something that you can learn once and then use in that form forever, such as your 9 times table that you learn and use in school. The skills that we need in order to be able to think critically are varied, and include the following: observation, analysis, interpretation, reflection, evaluation, inference, explanation, problem solving, and decision making. Specifically, we need to be able to think about a topic or issue in an objective and critical way, identify the different arguments there are in relation to a particular issue, evaluate a point of view to determine how strong or valid it is, recognise any weaknesses or negative points that there are in the evidence or the argument, notice what implications there might be behind a statement or argument, and provide structured reasoning and support for an argument that we wish to make. Is there a process to critical thinking? Well, you should be aware that none of us is thinking critically all the time. Sometimes we think in almost any way but critically. For example, when our self-control is affected by anger, grief or joy, or when we're just feeling bloody-minded. On the other hand, the good news is that since our critical thinking ability varies according to our current mindset, most of the time we can learn to improve our critical thinking ability by developing certain routines and activities and applying them to all problems that present themselves. Once you understand the theory of critical thinking, improving your thinking skills takes persistence and practice. So maybe try this simple exercise to help you start thinking critically. Think of something that someone has recently told you. Then ask yourself the following questions. Who said it? Someone you know? Someone in a position of authority or power? Does it matter who told you this? What did they say? Did they give you facts or opinions? Did they provide you all the facts? Did they leave anything out? Where did they say it? Was it in public or in private? Did other people have a chance to respond and provide an alternative account? When did they say it? Was it before, during, or after an important event? Is timing important? Why did they say it? Did they explain the reasoning behind their opinion? Were they trying to make someone look good or bad? And finally, how did they say it? Were they happy, sad, angry, or indifferent? Did they write it or say it? Could you understand what was said? I've posted these questions and prompts on the website to help you with this exercise. Be aware of what you're aiming to achieve. One of the most important aspects of critical thinking is to decide what you're aiming to achieve and then make a decision based on a range of possibilities. Once you have clarified that aim for yourself, you should use it as a starting point in all future situations requiring thought and possibly further decision making. Where needed, make your workmates, family, and those around you aware of your intention to pursue this goal. You must then discipline yourself to keep on track until changing circumstances mean that you have to revisit the start of the decision-making process. However, there are things that get in the way of simple decision-making. We all carry with us a range of likes and dislikes, learned behaviours, personal preferences developed throughout our lives. They are the hallmarks of being human. A major contribution to ensuring that we think critically is to be aware of these personal characteristics, preferences and biases, and make allowances for them when considering possible next steps, whether they are the pre-action, consideration stage, or as part of a rethink caused by unexpected or unforeseen impediments to continued progress. The more clearly we are aware of ourselves, our strengths and our weaknesses, the more likely our critical thinking will be productive. The benefit of foresight. Most of us are aware of the notion of hindsight and how useful it would be, but perhaps the most important element of thinking critically is foresight. Almost all decisions that we make and implement don't prove disastrous if we find reasons to abandon them. However, our decision-making would be infinitely better and more likely to lead to success if, when we reached a tentative conclusion, we were to pause and to consider the impact on people and activities around us. The elements of a final decision which need consideration are generally numerous and varied. In many cases, consideration of just one element from a different perspective could reveal potential issues and concerns in pursuing our decision. An example of this could be moving a business activity to a new location. This may improve the potential output considerably, but it could also lead to the loss of skilled workers if the distance moved is too far. Which of these is more important as a consideration? Is there some way of lessening the conflict? This is an example of the lack of awareness that may arise from incomplete critical thinking, and therefore a demonstration perhaps of the real importance of good critical thinking. So in summary, critical thinking is aimed at achieving the best possible outcomes in any situation. In order to achieve this, it must involve gathering and evaluating information from as many different sources as possible. Critical thinking requires clear, often uncomfortable assessment of your personal strengths, weaknesses and preferences, and their possible impact on your decisions that you make. Critical thinking requires the development and use of foresight as far as this is possible. As Doris Day sang, the future's not ours to see. Implementing the decisions made arising from critical thinking must take into account an assessment of possible outcomes and ways of avoiding potentially negative outcomes, or at least lessening their impact. Critical thinking involves reviewing the results of the application of decisions made and implementing change where possible. It might be thought that we're overextending our demands on critical thinking by expecting it to construct a focused outcome rather than prompting us to examine the information given and the knowledge that we've acquired. After all, almost no information we have available to us, either externally or internally, carries any guarantee of its correctness or appropriateness. But by developing our awareness and skills around critical thinking, we are surely allowing ourselves to see all the perspectives and make justified decisions as a result. So that's my topic for today. I hope you found it interesting and helpful. Thank you for taking the time to listen. If you've enjoyed this episode, why not subscribe and get new episodes sent weekly? You can do that for free via Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcast, and more. I appreciate everyone who takes the time to listen, so please do subscribe, like, tell your friends, and send me any comments and feedback. Also, check out the Instagram page, Not Just Making the Tea, for more information and updates. For more activities and resources, check out the Learning Hub on educationyala.com and subscribe. Thank you once again, keep safe and chat soon. Have a great day.